Welcome to the Page One Podcast, a twice-weekly podcast featuring a variety of guests and thought leaders on topics ranging from channel strategies to tariffs, influencer marketing, best-in-class product launches, and all the details about how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers, or what we call R-commerce. Now here's your host, Luke Peters.
Thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Peters of Newer Appliances and CEO also of Retail Band Digital Strategy Agency. We're now in coronavirus world, and I know everyone's mind is on that, so I'm going to adapt these interviews to ensure that you listeners are getting the most out of this podcast, so you can expect us to get right to the point, provide valuable business insights, and focus on COVID-19 impacts. And briefly, I am offering a free evaluation of your online business strategy. If you're interested, find me on LinkedIn or at luke@retailband.com. And this is focused on growing your digital sales online, which is high demand right now, obviously. And in this episode, you're going to learn from Karina Rabin on her journey together with her husband, Jared, their secrets of working together as a husband and wife team, the challenge of penetrating retail without experience, and a packaging disaster that cost them $100,000 when they were starting out. Karina and Jared are the co-founders of a popular hanging all-in-one picture hanging tool called Hang-O-Matic. They sold their dream home in Orange County in order to self-fund this product and get it into retail stores. And on the Page One podcast today, I want to welcome Karina to it. And go ahead and fill in any gaps there, Karina, that I might have missed.
Oh, no, you were perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Every time I hear that we sold our dream home, I get teared because we missed that house so much.
Where was it at?
It was in Lake Forest in Orange County.
Yep.
You're probably familiar.
Yep.
It was a brand new construction home. The little community only had 65 houses. So it was a really small, tight community. And it was walking distance to Grandma's house.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And is it kind of by Silverado Canyon? Is it back in that area or a different part of Lake Forest?
Yeah, it's really close to Foothill Ranch.
Oh, got it. Yep. Okay. I know where that is.
Our business address is still at Foothill Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like there's a Target over there.
Yep.
Yeah. So really close. It was really nice to the sports park, really close to the sports park.
And Whiting Ranch is kind of in that area, right? Is that the Target I'm thinking about?
Brand new.
Yeah, I know exactly where that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was called Whistler Ridge.
Yeah. Okay. I know the area exactly. It's kind of a mountain biker's dream. I've mountain biked over there many times. So, and for those of you guys who are not in Southern California, so what Karina's talking about, Lake Forest, it's kind of southern or central Orange County, 10 miles inland or so, kind of backing up or right before the foothills and the Silverado Mountains, Santa Ana Mountains, which go up to about 5,500 feet. It's pretty interesting geography in California. So gives us some cool mountain biking. Those mountains themselves are like about a 40-minute drive from the beach. Those are not like the bigger mountains that people are skiing on, but they're kind of near the coast. And so I live in Huntington, so I'm like about a 30-minute drive from that area. So great to have you on the podcast. And before we jump into it, why don't you go ahead and kind of give the audience a little better idea of the product that you guys are offering, a little bit more about the business.
Absolutely. So it's really great for people to get now because everybody's obviously home. And I'm even redecorating my walls. You get bored of old pictures. You want to put up new pictures. So Hang-O-Matic is a reinvented 6-foot tape measure that has a yellow bubble slide on the actual tape. And it has two, I would call them markers, but they actually staple your wall. They just mark the wall, really, really tiny faint marks in case you change your mind and you don't want to hang a picture there. It doesn't ruin the wall. But this way you can hang anything. So it doesn't leave any nails in the wall. It just marks them like you would with a pencil, just to let you know where you'd want to hang whatever you want to hang. And the tape measure is 6 feet, so you can hang anything, from small to a large item. And because it's a tape measure, you can also use it for one hole. Say you want to hang something 65 inches off the floor, you can use the Hang-O-Matic like a tape measure, bring one of the markers to 65 inches and mark the wall for where that one picture is going to hang.
That's great. And so the business is focused around this single product, or do you guys have more products?
That's it. No, my husband invented it when he was in college in California. So he invented it in 2000 is when he had the idea and filed for a patent. And then we met in 2008, and I literally met him a week after I was living alone in Los Angeles in West Hollywood, and I got into a fight with a IKEA shelf. We got into a really big fight because
That's funny.
I couldn't match up that keyhole on the back of that decorative shelf. So I was able to put in one nail, right, but I couldn't match the second nail with the keyhole. And I got so frustrated at this shelf that I just kept banging and trying to move the nail because I was so close. It was like a hair. And so I put like a good baseball size hole in the wall.
That's so funny. And I know exactly the problem you guys are solving. I mean, I'm like a kind of a wannabe amateur photographer. So, you know, I've hung a million photos. Somehow my wife makes it look easy. She does a better job than me, but I know I know exactly what you're talking about. Some frames only need that center nail, let's call it, you know, because they'll have the wire going across it, so they're easy to balance. And then some will need two. And when you have to put in two and then measure them perfectly and then put the photo up there, it's so hard to not only get the width right, but then what if they're crooked, right? So you got like two problems there. So that is great. And you guys were successful at getting it into stores so quickly, like pre-coronavirus. What were your major partners there in retail?
So the major one that's still open, knock on wood, is Home Depot. So right now they're the only store that's really keeping us in business. So it's Home Depot. We're also in the Container Store. They're closed. Hobby Lobby is our biggest customer because Hobby Lobby sells so many decorative items, and they have the Hang-O-Matic right at the register.
That's awesome.
So next to gum, right?
Yep.
So Hobby Lobby was moving our inventory the most, and sadly, they just got ticketed and they had to close. But they already had a lot of stores closed. Like I said, Container Store. We're also in Menards in Wisconsin. They're a hardware store, so they might be open. We were on QVC 5 times in England and in US. We were in Ace Hardware. We just got out of Ace Hardware because Ace Hardware has a lot of small owners own the franchise, right? They have their own stores.
Yep.
And so I had about 50 people who didn't ask permission and put it up on Amazon. And so I was basically fighting with my own customer. So we had to stop selling to Ace Hardware. Meyer is another store we were in, and they too were reselling it to third-party Amazon sellers. So it was difficult for us to compete with ourselves. So we had to lose some of those stores because they were driving the price down sometimes, and then we were competing with way too many people. So we lost some. So we had to make a decision because we're a small business. It's just me.
Wow.
And my husband does operations, and he obviously runs the company, but he also has a full-time job.
Oh, wow.
So he's working. So you
guys are busy.
So he's busy. He's working a full-time job, and he had a computer by his side. So he had 2 computers, his day job and then his laptop. Recently, we had to license the Hang-O-Matic to another manufacturer because we sold our house to fund ourselves. We were also in Bed Bath & Beyond, Michael's, Joanne, and it just got so expensive for us because we're having to reinvest the money back. We lost $100,000 on packaging, and so it got really difficult to increase distribution because now we're trying to get into Target and Lowe's.
Thanks for sharing all of this because I want to dive into all of it, how the cash flow crunch has impacted you guys. It sounds like getting into all those stores, would be just a blessing, like, a huge revenue opportunity, but I guess there must have been some challenges that I want to get into. And before we do that though, talking about coronavirus, how has it impacted you on a percentage basis? Are you guys down like 50, 60% because you've lost the revenue from all of those stores? Has it had a significant impact on you guys?
I don't know the exact percentage because my husband does all the operations, but I would say it's probably more than that because our only store that's still sending us POs is Home Depot, and they're not buying as many units as they were prior to the coronavirus. So I feel like I'm having to jump through hoops and try and figure out how to become an e-commerce business. Right?
Yeah, I've seen you guys on Amazon, so it sounds like you have a good presence on Amazon, right?
So we are on Amazon. I found it's like one Amazon seller who is buying the inventory from us, so it's real inventory, and he puts it up on Amazon just to take off some of the workload off me because I'm just one person, right? My husband, like I said, works full time, and he never took the ranks on learning marketing. I did, right? So when we started selling into stores, people think, oh, well, great. Now that you're in Home Depot, it's going to be flying off the shelf. Well, no, it's not. People don't know what's in Home Depot. You don't wake up one morning and think, I think I need a picture hanging tool, right? No one thinks of products that you don't know exist. So we are still having to do marketing to push the traffic to those stores. I was doing Facebook ads, but now I had to stop doing Facebook ads because now our income obviously is lower from not getting so many orders because of the virus. Then I'm having to learn new things. I'm having to learn how to do Instagram. I'm having to learn how to TikTok.
That's so funny.
Which is so funny, but I'm kind of like, I like to throw darts to see what works, and I'll do anything because we're a small business and I have to figure out how to expand our online distribution. I'm trying to get into Target right after this. I hope, knock on wood, we'll be shelved in Target. So I'm driving traffic to Target because we are online at Target. And sometimes the way you get into these stores is you prove to them that it sells online in their store, and then they give you space.
And today we're recording, so this is April 6th. So that'll give the listeners an idea of how far we are into the coronavirus. So probably the impact started hitting you guys about 3 weeks ago with those store closures. And you're absolutely right about the marketing. By the way, there is a good Home Depot marketing offering right there on the Home Depot site. Hopefully you're taking advantage of that. I think you'll have better results than directing Facebook ads to it. If you're not taking advantage of it, I would highly recommend considering changing your investment from Facebook right to that Home Depot ad tool or ad offering in the sponsored ads.
Is that on their website?
For the .com. Yep.
So I could learn about how to market to Home Depot on Home Depot's website?
Well, they have an offering. It's actually kind of a separate point. It's a little more complicated, but let's just say that companies can advertise their products through Home Depot on Home Depot. So you don't have to use third-party advertising like Facebook and Google. You can do it right there on Home Depot. It's a little bit, the ROI is great. It's a little bit more tailored to your categories. Every category is different, so you're going to have to look at yours and see how it works. But just wanted to let the audience know as well, because it's a really important thing to be able to do. And then, that's great that you have someone selling on Amazon. It would be interesting to see, if you guys own that, how much you could improve that. And it sounds like that's the direction you're going, which is really smart because you got to own your digital. That I'm a firm believer in that. So, you've had these stores shut down, but now this, lets you kind of transition over to Amazon. What's been the challenge with cash flow? Has it been just because these retailers have long terms and the margins aren't as good, or what's been the challenge there? Because it sounds like selling into all of those stores would have been a bonanza, but it seems like it's been a little bit more difficult, huh?
Yeah. So the challenge is that they don't pay. Is the time frame they pay? For example, we were in Bed Bath & Beyond before they weren't doing so hot and started closing some stores. And I'm still a vendor, and I just got an email that they already don't pay for 90 days. So imagine they're not paying us during the 90 days, but we're still getting POs from them and other retailers, right? Well, Bed Bath & Beyond just sent an email that now they're adding an additional 60 days to the 90.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. So, and then Container Store sent us an email that they're also increasing their payment terms. So I'm grateful that we just recently got licensed because the company we're licensed to are bigger than just my husband and I. And so they are able to keep fulfilling these orders and keep buying boxes and keep buying inventory, right? So it's just such a high expense. You almost can't catch up because of their terms. And that's what happened with us in the beginning because we were so excited to just keep going. And it just got to the point where we couldn't grow the distribution because we ran out of money. We only had one house to sell. We didn't have any more houses.
That's it.
We didn't have any more houses to sell.
Yeah.
And you watch Shark Tank, which let me just tell you, whoever watches Shark Tank, that is just for entertainment only. What they say on Shark Tank and what happens after might be different. So on Shark Tank, I was one of those people who was, kept watching and hearing everything that they said. And they said, if you have a purchase order, you could just walk into a bank. So I kept going after these stores. I got Bed Bath & Beyond and Joann at the same time, and that was $200,000 purchase order. Okay, well, I heard on Shark Tank, when you have a purchase order, you take it to the bank. Well, we ran out of banks to talk to because
it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Our house was brand new. My husband and I were both working full time, both in sales. So we purchased this house before we started doing Hang-O-Matic. And so we couldn't refinance because the house was only 6 months old. We didn't have enough credit with the bank. And the banks didn't have accounts with those stores. So they were like, well, how do we know you're going to be paid from this store and that store? And we were like, but they said on Shark Tank, you can get, right? So no, you can't. So we went as far as we could. And my husband worked worked both jobs. We had hired one assistant who was helping us with Home Depot because those orders, were coming in every Monday. And there was a lot of data entry and then sending it to the factory. We were making Hang-O-Matic in America. And we had to also deal with our factory. And this was our second factory. The first factory we had to sue because they didn't make the product correctly and they didn't want to fix it. So we had to find a second factory. So there's just so much that goes in to when you make this product that if inventors come to me and they say, oh, I have an idea, I don't even want to know what your idea is. I want you to answer this question. Can you run a business? Can you afford to buy 100,000 units? Hello? Can you do these things? Before you tell me your idea, that should be your first question. Do you have money to do this business?
Everybody's caught up on the idea, but they don't realize it's the execution of the idea that matters. And, their ideas are a dime a dozen until they're funded and actually executed on and actually become successful. So you bring up a great point there. And tell me about that licensing deal that you did. So did you license, another brand is licensing, or another company is licensing your product just for specific retailers, or are they taking over all sales?
No. So the licensing company, we have an interesting licensing deal. Usually the most common licensing deal is they give you a percentage and you go away. And they do the sales and the manufacturing and whatever, and they just pay you a royalty. Well, our licensing deal is a little bit different because we still wanted to be involved in Hang-O-Matic. And the company we went with is a tape company, and so they make really good products. They have a sales team, but not as big. They're a small company, so not as big as Stanley Black & Decker or whatever. So we are still involved in sales. So I'm still doing sales and I'm still doing marketing, and all they do is manufacture it. They don't sell it. We do, right?
Gotcha. So they're kind of like, they basically took it to China or did something like that, and they're just running the factory side of it.
Exactly. So they basically just took away the operation. So They're making the product. They're obviously buying the boxes. They're making it. It's still Hang-O-Matic. It's still our box. It's still my husband's pictures on the box. Nothing has changed other than I am not getting those orders anymore. So I'm not having to do it all. So it's nice that they took it over. So it's almost like the same relationship as I had with my factory that was in California, except this guy is making the product way much better because they're an actual kid company where the other factory was not. Now Hang-O-Matic is made, unfortunately, overseas, but It's been improved. It just works better. I don't have to check every single one that goes out, because sometimes he sends me boxes for me to send samples to new retailers. I just sent some samples to 2 new stores. Right, where my previous factory was so bad, I had to check. I had to open and take the Hang-O-Matic out of every box to check to make sure it was good. You know how much work that is?
I can imagine.
I'm doing my own R&D, not R&D, compliance.
So it's great. You guys have this licensing deal. You guys have amazing retail partners, but unfortunately, most are closed. And due to COVID-19, it sounds like business is going to be cut by more than 50%. What concerns you the most about the future, but also what are you most optimistic about? I mean, we have the government PPP program, which I believe should still be able to help you guys. It's pretty significant government relief.
Yes. Yeah.
How are you feeling, now that you're 3-4 weeks into this COVID-19 problem?
To be honest with you, my biggest fear is 2 things. First, my fear is the licensing deal gets canceled because they don't think it's worth keeping us on because they're not selling as many units. That's my first fear. My second fear is what will happen with these retail stores. Will they stay in business, right? Will they continue to buy Hang-O-Matic? So that's my fear. Is we only have one product. We wanted to come out with the second one, and we were in the middle of making the second one. The second product was going to find the stud. It was going to be called Hang-O-Matic Stud. But now we have to put that on hold, right? So I'm just worried, and I'm obviously a girl, more emotional. That's why I'm doing my hardest to keep it alive online and trying to tell people they could buy it at Home Depot online or Target online, or they could go to Home Depot. But our Home Depot this weekend, the line out the door was so long because they're not letting that many people in.
Yeah, I've seen that everywhere. Right.
So now there's less foot traffic that's going into Home Depot. So I'm just worried because we sold our house. I mean, we sold our house. We moved to Colorado. I miss Orange County. I miss being close to my in-laws. So I just worry, will we be able to come out of this and go back to selling as many units as we were? So that's just,
yeah. And then before this, you guys were in a great position. It sounds like it was more of a cash flow problem. You're selling into all these retailers. Why don't we quickly talk about that? We just have a little bit of time left, but I think it'd be valuable for the audience to hear how, Karina, you and your husband did this startup from nothing, no experience in retail at all.
No experience.
Yeah. So let's quickly go through these. What's your best marketing strategy?
So the first thing we did is went to a trade show. And I understand people can't go to a trade show now. What I've learned is you don't need to go to a trade show. Everyone you need to talk to, no matter what business you're in, are on LinkedIn. And how to find anyone that you're looking for is you type the company name that you're looking for in the search up on top. Like I typed in podcast and that's where I found you, right?
Yep.
So no matter what you're looking for, LinkedIn is really good with keywords you use to search whoever you want to find. So yesterday I was helping some inventor who had no luck on finding companies to license his baseball product. Well, have you typed in the company name of this baseball company? No. Well, that's your first problem, right? So you don't need to go to a trade show. If you're looking, like I'm helping one client, this gift basket company came to me trying to get into stores. I typed in Macy's on LinkedIn, got everybody who worked at Macy's. I connected with everybody. So my best strategy is when you want to connect with somebody is first you connect. Don't write a message of why you're connecting. I feel like when there's a message, the person receiving it knows there's a sales pitch coming on.
That's so funny. So you're having better success connecting with just to connect. There's none of this fake, hey, you know, we're in the same industry. Let's see if we can help each other. You don't even send any of that, and you just do a straight connect on LinkedIn, and that's kind of how you found your buyers.
Right, because I feel like when you see me connecting, you're just intrigued. Why is this person connecting with me? And so you'll accept it because I didn't say why I'm connecting with you, so you don't know yet, and you're interested in finding out later. Everyone is. I feel like LinkedIn has this culture where everyone's interested when someone piques their interest. And when people connect with me and they say things like, oh, I see we have a lot of connections in common. Oh, yeah, uh-huh. I mean, like, that's a terrible sales pitch. So I already know a second one is going to come on and say something else silly. So because a lot of people now pitch me, and because I was initially bad at selling Hang-O-Matic and no one wrote me back. And if you want one of these, this is my best tip. As soon as I changed my message, then all these people started writing me back. So I feel like I could say, which people get mad when I say it, that I have an 100% response rate, which is really high. And my husband argues with me too. He's like, you can't say 100% because not 100% of people responded. But every store I needed to talk to did respond. Does that make sense?
It does. And tell me about that. So we're talking about LinkedIn strategy and finding buyers here, and the fact that in a short period of time, you guys were in store at a ton of stores. I mean, that's a major achievement. Trust me. I mean, I've been in business a long time. We focused on .com, but it's not easy to get in stores, and you guys were. And now you're mentioning that you changed your pitch. Are you saying that you changed your pitch down to no text at all? Or are you saying that after you connected, then you had a special message that you would send out and you found it to be successful?
Yeah, so I always pitch. The first store we got into, because you were talking about online, was the Grommet. Have you heard of the Grommet?
Yep.
And they sold 1,000 units in 30 minutes and sent us a second purchase order for $250,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we were like, where would you like us to come up with that? And so we lost a $250,000 purchase order because we couldn't fulfill 30,000 units in 2 weeks.
I wish we would have known each other back then.
Man, me too. And when we first started, we did try to make it in China by ourselves.
Yep.
And it was, so we had a middleman, and we couldn't get it less than $3 a unit. And so there was just no way we were able to make money, make 30,000 units so fast. Anyway, that's another podcast.
Karina, tell us about, just because running short on time, but I think the LinkedIn strategy was really interesting for the listeners. And how did you actually get into the stores? I mean, this is usually a very long process of having to pitch the product, and then every retailer has its own type of process that they run you through, and usually these things take years to get in. What did you find that worked specifically, or I guess quicker than maybe other friends or other colleagues that you know?
Well, what made it quicker is connecting with them once I changed my pitch. And I'll give you an example, because this is the biggest problem I see people doing on LinkedIn. So let me pitch you, and then you understand what I'm saying. So I would say, hi, I'm the co-inventor of Hang-O-Matic, a picture hanging tool that measures levels and marks. Do you know what a picture hanging tool is?
Yes.
You do? You would know. You would know that it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I know about picture hanging. Okay, I got you. No, I don't know about a specific picture hanging tool.
Right, but you would know what mine does. I feel like it's very genetic.
Yes.
I'm saying it's a picture hanging tool. Then I changed my message to all-in-one picture hanging tool, and I still didn't get anything. Then my third and final switch was, I think you would agree that picture hanging is difficult to do straight the first time. Your wall gets ruined, and you're stressed out and frustrated having to patch and paint and start over. Hang-O-Matic is a 6-foot tape measure that levels, measures, and marks. Boom! Everybody knows how frustrating it is to hang pictures, and everybody knows what a tape measure is. So when you pitch somebody on LinkedIn, the first thing people I'm noticing not doing, they're not saying something that makes sense to me. Hi, I'd like to help you grow your leads. What leads? Do you even know what I do? Right?
Yeah, because you're solving the thing that you have going for you is you're solving a problem that so many people know about. And that's why that pitch resonates really well, I think.
But I think anyone who's selling something can find that relatable value to the person that they are pitching. if you have a home office, and especially now, I know you're home because we all have to be, and you have an office, or you might have to build an office, and I'm selling desks, I would message you and say, I know you would agree that you're probably building out your office right now and need a desk that you've never had before.
Yeah.
Well, I have this desk that, fits into a small room. It folds. It's white and shiny, and I can get that desk to you next week.
Yep.
So the message has to start with a relatable value problem that your potential receiver might have, like that.
It makes a lot of sense. And thanks for putting it out that way, because I try to do this on the Page One podcast. I really like to get tangible examples. And I feel, you kind of walked us through your LinkedIn strategy. We kind of understand your pitch. People can adjust their strategies because yours is a little different. And I think we all are, LinkedIn 101 is kind of like include a message, and you're saying, hey, try it without a message in there. And I totally agree that could be kind of a new trend and maybe a better way to do it. And then kind of onto your pitch and how your pitch morphed over time. So I think, Karina, that's super helpful. Why don't we finish this with, you guys, husband-wife team started with nothing, had to sell your house for this business, got into all of these large retailers, found a lot of success, but also some cash flow crunch. And then now getting hit by COVID-19 and finding a way around it. I'd love for you to sum up, what you've learned in that process, and maybe if you had a second chance, what you might do differently. And because that might be, telling and helpful to other entrepreneurs out there.
So if I knew then what I know now, when we received that Grommet order, my husband did not want to sell them the units because we only had 1,000. He wanted to wait, so that I could see that now, given that we received that $250,000 purchase order later. So had we waited, then maybe we would have been able to take that order and come up with units. And then the other thing I would have done is, for one of our biggest mistakes was cutting corners and hiring people who were less expensive to help us with our packaging and marketing material. Is we trusted people like on Fiverr and Upwork and other small designers who just charge $1,000 and they're like, oh yeah, I know how to design. But anytime you really design marketing or packaging for any service, I highly, highly recommend people go to someone that's a big company who's actually done it. So I went and found, again on LinkedIn, a packaging company that does packaging for as seen on TV products. You go into CVS, Walgreens, etc., and you see all those as seen on TV products. I went to the company who makes packaging for that because obviously they're already in the store. They're already selling, so they know how to design. They've done it. So we cut our losses. We spent a lot of money on other designers. The other thing we did not do is after somebody designs something for you, print it. Meaning like print the email, print the PDF, can't go to the mall now. But what we finally did the third time is we went to the mall and stopped every stranger and had them take a look at the PDF of the new packaging that we redesigned for the third time and said, tell me what this does. Because watching Shark Tank and hearing Mr. Wonderful, oh, that's a demo product. That's never going to sell in the store because you're not going to be there showing it. Now we have to somehow design this packaging so people know it's a tape measure that levels, measures, and marks because no one's ever heard of that before. And so
exactly, because you're the creator, you know it, but in their mind, you got to make sure the audience picks that up in a couple of seconds.
Exactly. So you really need strangers, not your family, not your friends, not your Facebook friends, strangers. So now I tell other people who reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask me what to do is I tell them to go into a brand new group on Facebook where people don't know who you are and people don't know what you're selling. Share your stuff, even if it's a message. Sometimes I'll write a sales pitch for someone and then I go into a brand new group and I put out the pitch to see what people comment to see if they understand what it is, right? Because
I think that's a brilliant strategy. Test it. So, your big learnings were make sure your packaging is right, and make sure you can make sure you're ready for big time. When you go live. And then I really like this last one you're talking about, which is use Facebook groups. And there's so many uses for Facebook groups, and I don't know them as well. And I know a lot of companies are taking advantage of that newer platform, and you're getting a kind of a tighter audience around that. And I love that idea of testing the product through a Facebook group, especially now that, as you mentioned, Karina, the malls are closed. So yeah, I think that's a great way to sum up the podcast. And I want to thank you for joining me on the Page One podcast. Before we leave, how about you let us know how listeners can contact you or learn more about you or your business?
Sure. So our website obviously is Hang-O-Matic.com, or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is Karin. My last name is Rabin. Or I also now created a YouTube channel and a free website for people to learn how to pitch or learn how to, get retail or license if they wanted to. My husband and I, instead of, creating another online course that people don't need, is we created a YouTube channel where we share how we did everything. So we're not trying to profit from that. And that's called The One Pitch, because you only need one.
Oh, I love that's a great idea, and I'm sure that's going to expand your network. So, I think that's a cool idea to stay busy during house lockdown. So, wow, thanks again, Karina, for joining us, and I just want to thank all the listeners for joining us on the Page One podcast, sponsored by Retail Band. Quick reminder that I'm offering a free evaluation of your online strategy. We can take a look at what you're doing on Amazon, Home Depot, Wayfair, and all those other retailers, and help you grow your business there online, which is now more important than ever. And we can look at your product listings, look at the tools you're using, see if influencer marketing makes sense for you. And if you're interested, contact me at luke@retailband.com or on LinkedIn. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate your reviews on iTunes, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Page One podcast with Luke Peters. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our other segments. Also, please help us out by leaving us a rating on iTunes. Want to learn more about our commerce? Check out www.retailband.com to get more great tips and tricks on how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers.